morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to Konsoll 2023. Yeah, this is our 12-year anniversary and our annual celebration of game development. My name is Sylvia Dewar, and I'm the conference director for Konsoll. I got involved in Konsoll 9 years ago, and it was my pleasure to take over as director 7 years ago. Just to give you a little bit of history, Konsoll was started back in 2012 by the Game Developers Guild in Norway. And 2 years ago, we became a part of Nonida, the Norwegian network for game developers, where I work. What started off as a gathering of developers at Bryggen in 2012 has turned into a yearly international event in Bergen, now at the fabulous Grieghall. So while we have the pleasure of welcoming international visitors and speakers to Konsoll, it's also a global effort to organize the event. Our team operates from Norway, Sweden, the UK, and France, only ever coming together in person at Konsoll. So we're very excited for you to experience the program that we've been collaborating with and on for the whole year. So let's get things started. Here to open Konsoll 2023, we'd like to give a warm welcome to the Deputy Mayor of Vestland County, Mr. Stian Davies.
Thank you, and welcome to Bergen, welcome to Vestland. I am Stian Davies, and I am the Deputy Mayor of Vestland County Council. I am happy to see so many of you here at Konsoll 2023. It is absolutely wonderful to see so many of you gathered to listen, learn, and discuss game development, and to create new networks for future collaboration just here in Bergen. Creative industries account for around £108 billion in value creation in the United Kingdom alone. One figure says that the global creative industries account for around 6.1% of the global gross domestic product. Of course, this includes the film industry, the arts, music, and game development. But still, it is a remarkable number. The creative industries create thousands of jobs all over the world. Game development isn't just about the money and the business, though. It's a world of art, storytelling, music, and fantastic worlds we all can be consumed in. And a game isn't just a game. For me, being able to play World of Warcraft when I was younger opened my eyes. In World of Warcraft, I could explore the tropical Stranglethorn Whale, travel to the Thousand Needles, and visit Stormwind City. The developers had made a completely new world for me to explore, with captivating music as you entered new cities, funny small stories in side quests, and exciting dungeons which I could explore. Or when I played Halo. First, it was just fun running around as a super soldier, gunning down aliens. But later, I got to understand both some of the underlying stories that Bungie had created, the bond between Master Chief and Cortana, and the difficult relationship it turned out to be. Or, maybe even better, the combination of fan-made and Bungie-made stories that stood behind it all in the games. And, come on, nothing beats Martin O'Donnell's epic music in the Halo series. The combination of storytelling, graphical design, music, and playing with others was just blowing my mind and creating a new universe for me and my friends. As game developers, you create adventures and new worlds for us to escape to. You create magnificent experiences each and every day. For the professional cultural field, game development should be lifted as one of the most important ways to strengthen the cultural economy. One small example is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. First of all, it's obviously fun to explore Western Norway in a video game. But what struck me the most is that a lot of the soundtrack in Valhalla is created by the Norwegian composer and artist Einar Selvik, who was one of the main artists at Bergen International Festival in 2020. Games create a bridge between classical music and classical culture to popular games, creating new ways to consume and understand music and culture. And, even more important, the skills needed for creating games especially when it comes to programming and the technical sides of the process, is also hugely attractive to other industries like the energy sector, data security, and the film industry. We need you as skilled workers in Norway and in Bergen. We have huge opportunities in using the full potentials in new technologies like augmented reality and virtual reality, and many of you have the ideas on how to use them. My hope is that Bergen and Vestland becomes a hub in Norway, and maybe also the capital for creative industries. We are not there yet, but we can get there. We cannot say that Norway is a leader in the field of game development. To be frank, Norway is lagging behind. Our neighboring countries are far in front of us, not because of lack of will amongst you guys as the developers, but because of the national policies could be much better. But we have companies and developers in Norway. One example is D-Pad Studios from my home island, Askøy, just over the bridge, 15 minutes from here. The company has gotten world famous from a room on Askøy, a small island in a big perspective, by working extremely hard and following their dreams, creating games like Owlboy, Savant Descent, and Vikings on trampolines. We have the potential, and we as politicians must lay the foundation for you guys to grow further. This conference, Konsoll, is an important part of laying that foundation, connecting you guys together, learning from each other, and most importantly, discussing the ideas that could be the next fantastic game. I hope you use this conference as a way to strengthen your companies and to make your dreams become reality. And just before I enter the stage, I heard that the Konsoll, the conference, is the first game developer conference that is gender balanced amongst you, the attendees. So good luck with the conference. As a proud sponsor of the conference, Vestland County Council hope your ideas will become a reality after this conference. I hope you learn something new to add to your project. If it's making your world a little bit more fantastic, making your character pose a little cooler, or using AI as a helping hand in developing your new wonderful game. Whatever happens, good luck to all of you and enjoy the conference. Thank you.
Thank you kindly to the Deputy Mayor of Vestland County, Stian Davies, for opening Konsoll for us this year. So before we start the event, I'd like to give a warm thank you to our Konsoll sponsors and to our venue, Grieghallen. We are so grateful also to our speakers for joining us this year from both Norway and abroad. But I'll leave it up to Usan to say more about them. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our fantastic Konsoll game master, Usan Drøsdal.
Hello everyone, I'm your host, Osan, and I'm 33 years old. And so far being 33 has been fine, it's been easy. Except yesterday, when I blew out my back on the plane because I was reckless enough to take off my seatbelt while looking to the side. So, yeah, like some sort of snake person. So if I act any weirder than usual today, which is a whole lot of weird to be honest, it's because I'm in severe pain. But you don't want to hear about that. You came all the way out here to see me be the host of Konsoll, and I'm gonna give you the best gosh darn hosting performance you've ever seen. It's gonna be wild. I'm gonna be introducing people. I'm gonna be talking about lunch. And if you're lucky, I might even talk about some fire safety routines. So let's just get started with the hosting. So, excuse me, this is my notes about the info. All right, here it comes. Are you ready? Are you ready for some information? Yeah! Information! All right, information number one. There's a code of conduct that we recommend you read on the website or on the posters around us. because we want to create a safe environment for everyone. So that was the first information. Read the code of conduct. Nice. Give it up for the first information. Woo! All right. And then, this is the good one. This is the one you came out here for. The fire safety routines. Yeah! Did I forget the fire safety routines outside? I did. Can somebody get me the fire safety? Hold on. Christ. Yes. The main act. Here it is. All right, are you ready for the fire safety routines? Yes. Awesome, okay. In case there's a fire, you will be notified with sirens and voice alerts. In case of fire or evacuation for other reasons, we ask the public to evacuate through marked exit doors, which are, you know how marked exit doors look like. Walk calmly and follow the marked escape routes out of the building. Meeting point is the square outside of Grieghallen. Follow instructions from the staff, except me. Do not follow my instructions. Those are not going to be reliable. Anyway, I'll just keep this, actually. All right, that was the fire safety routines. Awesome. Cool, number 3. There's 4 of those. We're almost done. That's lunch. Everybody likes lunch. Lunch will be served on the hall. All right, number 4. Meet the match. Meet the match. Meet the match meeting room and general meeting room is upstairs. Follow signs. Room name is Bukken. So that's kind of funny. And that's it for that. Just remember Bukken and you'll be fine, I guess. And number 5, there's something about t-shirts. If you haven't gotten your t-shirt and you're supposed to have one, you can find it downstairs. That was it for the information. Pretty cool. And now this is the, yeah, all right. Oh, okay. Yeah. Everybody loves information. All right, that was the information. So now the best part is me introducing my good friend, Martin, who's going to blow you away with his talk now. He's a sound guy, and he has worked on every game ever made, as far as I know. The most important one being, of course, Manuel Samuel from 2016, which I'm sure you've heard about. So give it up for Martin, and I'll see you later.
Hi folks, thanks Ozan, that was very funny. Thanks, it's hard to top fire safety routines. So I'm a little bit nervous, but I hope we can get through this together. My name is Martin Kvale and I do sound design for video games. And today I'm going to talk about sound design and science fiction. Especially like talking about a few games that I think could be classified as science fiction. First of all though, I know some of you have traveled, I know some of you have woken up, and I know some of you are still a bit sleepy. So for those of you who want, please stand up with me, and we are going to have a little morning stretch. So just follow me.
May it be an evening star shines down upon you. May it be when darkness falls, your heart will be true. You walk a lonely road. Oh, how far you are from home. Morning air, ooh,
And then we take this little fingers. Since we're all sit by computers, it's also important too.
will find your
And we're gonna try something, but be very cautious. We're gonna do a very small version. I'm gonna do the big one, and you make sure you don't hit anyone, right? But we do like this little, very gentle, maybe like this. This is good. And slowly, big, small circles, but you know, big in your head. And then the other way. And then the other. And we turn. And then hips don't lie, so we're gonna ring him around a little bit. Okay, so big circles, semi-big circles.
When the night is overcome, you may rise to find the sun.
And then knees. Big circles. If it cracks, you're doing it right. Yes, it's good. Yeah. Shake a little bit. We take a few deep breaths, like eyes closed. In, out. In, out. Okay. Good. I think we're ready for talking about sound now, don't you think? Oh no, I know it's not fire safety rules, but thank you. Let's see now. So yeah, my talk is about science fiction, which is very bendable in a way, which is why we did the morning stretch. And I come from a background of doing games for about 11 years now. I worked in about 30-ish of them, and I do mainly things like sound design and working on implementation. I occasionally do music, and I work at Krillby Studio, which is in Oslo, and work on narrative horror games and cute games about fruit. And I also work with Knock Knock Audio, which is these people right there, which you can find in the forest usually. We eat mushrooms and leaves. And I kind of define what I do as nonlinear audio. And it separates a lot from, for instance, something like radio music or film, because nonlinear audio is kind of the practice of being able to design sound for an experience where you don't quite know what the player's going to be or do. I think the best example I have is like, if you imagine you're a valiant knight and you go to a beautiful vista and you see the castle and the harp is kind of like, blah, 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 but the player decides to like, oh, look, there's a mushroom over there. So they look away and they look down at the mushroom, which now is a majestic kind of stinger playing with like a choir and like a la 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 la, and the mushroom is just like there. So a little bit of, I think like that kind of boils down the essence of like, my consideration is like, what do I do in that case? Like, I want them to have a good moment with looking at that mushroom, but how do I make that moment good again so when they see back, look back at the castle, it still feels grand, you know? So I see it basically as a conversation between the designer and consumer. It's got many aspects, and we don't need to really delve into those, but I mainly deal with the two first ones, the sound design and implementation. Sound design is creation. It's the kind of creative aspect of making something that is for a specific purpose. And implementation is kind of taking that and putting it into the media form that you want and making it work exactly kind of how you want it to work. There's also composition. I'm bad at that, so we're not going to talk about that. There's dialogue editing, and I'm really bad at that as well. Voice casting, conference talks, I'm very bad at that. So we're going to go to the next one. We're going to talk mainly about sound design today, and I'm going to go through my process a little bit fast. Because my process is basically based a little bit around experimentation and randomness. Let me see, just do, yep, cool. I think we can kind of like illustrate it pretty well with, I want you again to make a little bit of thing for me. So I want us all to clap on 0, right? So I'll do like 3, 2, 1, and we clap, okay? 3, 2, 1. And I want us to say, hey, 3, 2, 1. Hey. Not clap, just like, hey. 3, 2, 1. And can I have everyone go like, whoop? 3, 2, 1. And then I want everyone to go like, but for like 5 seconds or so, right? 3, 2, 1. Thank you. So that's usually how I work with sounds. Let's see now. So of course I won't use this because I don't have everyone's permission to use this in a professional setting, but I think I can use it for this talk if it's okay. I'm gonna upload it, I also kind of have the belief that it's more important to brush your teeth with bad toothpaste than not brush your teeth at all. So I use my mobile phone for a lot of recordings, and it's kind of nice because then you have, let's see now if we have the sound thing for me. So I want us all to clap on 0, right? So I'll do like 3, 2, 1, and we clap. Okay? 3, 2, 1. Cool. And I want to. There we have a clap sound. We have something like that here. A, which is fine. Cool. We have 5 seconds. There we go. So this is kind of how I usually work. It's more about like gathering random things and making people do things in front of the microphone. Usually it's me, but now that I have all of you here, it's kind of nice because I can make it kind of say and do things I want. So like we have these things. And the cool thing about that is that I usually work with, I don't really have much intention behind what I do, but I do like to kind of see what I can make for things. So we have like the sound you make with it. Maybe we can drag that out and see what happens. Maybe we can see like, maybe we can make that like stretch as well. Sorry for the sound engineer. This is a bit bass heavy. And yeah, basically just kind of see what you can have and ring out from a sound. And of course, like, I'm kind of speeding through the process a little bit, but essentially I'm sitting for a few hours each day kind of seeing like... And if you can consider like just me recording that output and then cutting that up again and saying like, okay, now it's good. And I seldom kind of remember where exactly I get the sounds from, which is a bit hard to work. It's kind of destructive in a way that I work in a way that if I have to reproduce a sound and make like variations, I often can't. So I'll make another, we'll try that. So the sound design process isn't that really precious to me. It's more about trying to experiment and find things along the way. And I consider it kind of like being an archaeologist. Like it's more important to kind of be a little bit ready to see what you uncover rather than have like a very specific plan to be like, I want to make the Eiffel Tower. It's more like, oh, I have these 5 metal poles. Let's see what I can make with that. And something will arise and like, yes? Logic Pro, but I think like if you use Bandcamp or any kind of free software like the DAW, Digital Audio Workstation, it doesn't really matter too much. I think it's more important to kind of just know whatever you use. Like I could also use a better mic than my mobile phone, but in the end, it's also more important to kind of just know the tools you use well, so you don't have to be frustrated. Yes, and the one thing that I kind of can say as a sound designer is like I have to work on basically like 5 or 6 projects at a time to kind of make the wheels go around, or at least like my creative wheels go around. And with that comes a lot of communication. You know, I'm on Slack, I'm on Discord, I'm on Gmail, I'm on Trello, I'm on Asana, and I'm constantly in meetings or planning the next meeting. So experimentation is really nice, but it's kind of worthless without establishing a firm idea of what you're doing. And that idea I usually call frames. And by frames, I mean something like establishing the kind of general rules of how a game should work with this audio. So I have an example here with Hidden Folks.
Oh, bling.
So, I mean, imagine like here the frame is kind of easy. It's just to say like, okay, well, let's make mouth sounds. So there is always like confined, and it's always right to be like, hey, so how does the sound of a pelican vomiting out the radio sound like? Well, obviously it's got to be made by the sound, so by the mouth. So we'll kind of spend some time being like, blah, blah. We need more action because it's got to be like very, you know, like it's an interaction buttons, which means that you click on the pelican, it's got to make like something like a block, and then you want like the little kind of funny payoff, or if it lands on rock, but like bing, 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 something that kind of makes you laugh, you know. So the frame here is just basically mouth sounds, which is quite an easy one. We worked on a game called Among the Sleep, which was the first game I started working on a long time ago. And it's a game where you play as a 2-year-old child looking for your mother. It's a narrative horror game / adventure. And for the frame there, which is also like, I think the first time I worked like this, and it gave mersmak, as you say in Norwegian. We established that as you are a 2-year-old in a horror setting, we want you to feel vulnerable and small. So all the sound design had to do is basically make you feel smaller. So if you're dragging a chair, the chair looks like this, but we wanted it to feel like, you know, even bigger, even scarier. We wanted it to creak. We wanted it to, like, whenever you were afraid, things were bigger and scarier than they appeared. As well, and this is a spoiler, a lot of the kind of sound design also comes from the fact that the narrative is that you're looking for your mother, but there's also monsters about that, is how you perceive your mother when she's lashing out or angry or drunk or these kind of things, because we wanted to kind of delve a little bit on how kids see their parental figures when they don't quite understand what's going on, which is scary to them. So the frame there is basically like make things appear bigger than they are and kind of hide the narrative twists and plots and turns in the game inside, like, for instance, ambience. So to kind of do like another example, we would do something like, let's see, we're going to find, so let's say like, let's imagine this was the sound of the mother crying, and I kind of should have recorded you all crying because that would have been fun. Then we would kind of like figure out how can we kind of disguise this so it kind of sounds, at least like, my theory is that you can disguise something quite well, but there's still something subconscious that might pick it up. So like, for instance, the sound of you saying, hey, it's still in there, but yeah. So that was the premise of that frame. So now the record framing, we can move on. Let's see now, here we go. And I think like basically what I wanted to kind of mean with frame is that I think focusing on consistency kind of trumps quality. Like you can have a pretty bad animation, like for instance, there's a game called Everything, and instead of animating animals, they just kind of rotate them 45 or like 90 degrees. So a giraffe walks around like tick, 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 tick. And since everything is consistent, it's kind of funny. It's a part of that game look and feel. So I would always like think like a frame is basically just figuring out the consistency of what you're doing. Experiment, we just did that, so I'm going to skip over. The rest of the process is kind of like repeating the things. Sound and games, especially video games, is a very iterative thing. Coming in and doing something over and over and over is something that I quite enjoy doing. And it also kind of takes a lot of the pressure off by doing like, it doesn't really matter if you make the perfect thing for your game the first time. It's more about like putting something in, trying it, seeing how it works. You make something new or something iterative on it, and you kind of see it again. Hopefully you have enough time and you work fast enough that you can have something in the end that you are happy about. But of course, working creative, you're never happy about anything. So basically, we can kind of take what we did earlier about the experimentation about recording you. The good thing about having kind of the experimentation together with the frame is that now I can also kind of know if we were to make like a kind of like a factual, like an idea of a game, we can make the idea of a frame, and then from then on I can kind of do random things like that, like record you, like go outside and walk a little bit on stage, or like blow into the mic, and I could kind of see which one of these things, sorry again, sound engineer, we can kind of see the things that kind of sticks versus what the intention of the game is, which makes experimentation kind of fast and fun, and with enough time you kind of end up having something. Again, it kind of goes back to being archaeologists, right? Because then as an archaeologist, you can kind of learn to recognize what you just uncovered through random experimentation, and if it's kind of relevant to what you need. All right. So, science fiction. We're going to talk about a game called Dawnkeeper, which is a sci-fi game in a fairly loose sense. And science fiction, in many ways, is speculative fiction. I looked it up yesterday, and I like this term because speculative means you're speculating, you're making an idea of something, or you're kind of looking down a path towards the future and seeing where it might lead. And sound in games is quite speculative as well, I would say. I would say everything I do is sort of like a pastiche of techniques and things I record, things I create, things I borrow, and I put them together in a new context. Because when you take sounds out of the context you understand it from, it becomes something new. The kind of simplest thing here is to have an example is if you ever want to have make the soundscape of a beautiful flower meadow, and you have this and you want to put a sound of a bee in there because it's flowers, and you want oh, it's nice. If you give that to someone without context, they might very well often think that this is a fly and they will think of garbage. So in here, the context is that you have an intention of being this is supposed to be nice, and other people think this is trash. So when it comes to kind of constructed worlds like science fiction, I think audio and sound design is a very fitting thing to talk about because they share a lot of things in common. And I think also, especially when you talk about science fiction, we can talk about some of the most famous sounds, like for instance the lasers in Star Wars, which is literally like a slinky or like a trappetroll in Norwegian. And they have a little kind of microphone at the end, and they just kind of pew, pew, they strike it with a drumstick or something. So it's a very simple sound. We have Star Trek. The opening of the doors is very interesting. It's literally sliding a paper across the floor. Shh, shh. And these kind of sounds are all kind of in context. They work really well, but out of context, it's just some persons just trying random things. Like for instance, there's a very well-known sound of shooting, like this kind of recoil of a gun sound echoing through some kind of thing, which is literally, I think, shooting a gun into a barrel, and it bounced off a random part of the metal in there, and it kind of makes that specific sound. And experimentation yields a lot of fun results if you have the time for it. So, talking about science fiction, I'm going to go quickly through two different games I worked with. The first one is Manifold Garden. Manifold Garden is kind of more a pretty abstract science fiction game. It's sort of like an abstract garden that you're trying to grow to welcome the presence of various gods. I don't want to say you're space Jesus, but you can kind of imagine you're going around and cultivating and bringing forth deities from abroad. So the frame there, we could kind of say, with science fiction is we want to make it sound, we want to give texture and feeling to a world that is fairly stylistic. I just want to show you a little bit of how it sounded like as well. So I wanted to show you the speedrun version because we had this idea of we wanted it to be like this. The frame wanted to be like a thing where we wanted to show the elegance and the kind of nature of the title being Manifold Garden. We wanted it to be like the garden aspect of the title, because manifold was in itself the kind of construction of the architect and everything like that. But we found out through speedruns that it actually also resembles a lot of a music box. If you run around and if you click things fast, like cling, 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 it's basically like kind of having a little soundboard, and it's very just fires all your kind of nice receptors of pleasure, I think. And then there's another game called Sable, which is more I guess it's kind of like a mix between if Zelda were to meet Star Wars, and if Rey never kind of left Tatooine. I guess that's the way we kind of saw it, but also no violence, but you could climb anywhere. And it's a game where we kind of wanted it to show the excitement of the world, the importance of choosing your own life and exploring and being fearless and reckless. And I don't have that much time left, so we're going to speed up a little bit. But the reason why I wanted to kind of delve in these two games first was like, I think that these are like the two first most typical games that I worked on that can be classified as science fiction. Because they're kind of fictional, they're in the future, they're in a kind of alternative reality. Whereas Manifold Garden, I could say, is just like an alternative universe with its own rules and ideas. And Sable is based more closer to an idea of what humanity would be doing a few thousand years in the future. So both of those can be classified as science fiction. And the cool thing about them both as well is that their art style is fairly flat. Like I guess Sable would be called cel shaded, and don't shoot me because I'm not a graphic artist, but I think it's cel shading. And Manifold Garden is just like these flat textures, but impressive buildings. And what we kind of found out very early about both of them is like, because they lack the kind of depth and detail that other kind of like a AAA game like Star Wars would have, audio could come in and kind of make a lot of that appear alive. Like for instance, if you walk on the sand dunes on Sable, deciding kind of how that should sound like gives you the feeling like, oh, this is crusty earth, this is dry earth, this is damp, it's just rained. And we can show that with audio only, and the art can kind of just do its own thing and look impressive. Let's see, we are going to jump over that. That's for another time. But my main point is that when you have worlds that you create, and this is, I think, you can say that for most of the games you played, it's a world that's been constructed from pretty much nothing. Even the more realistic games are worlds that you build up. You model them, you put them in, you add the lighting. It's very artificial in a way. And I like that with audio, I can give a weight and believability to that, no matter kind of how abstract the world is. So we're going to talk a little bit about Dawnkeeper, which is a game that came out yesterday. And I'm going to show a short trailer so you can kind of see what the game is. So it's an interesting game because we just kind of looked at these other titles before it that was, I think, quite epic in a sense, like a grand sense of scale, imaginative worlds, a lot of world building. And I think you can say that's a game like Dawnkeeper, which is, I guess, think more like a roguelike kind of loose, light science fiction world, because you arrive at the world, you're a spacefarer, you have a little dome that protects you from the environment. There's monsters, and there's also untold riches you can mine in. And the game itself is basically like a kind of loop that reminds me a little bit of Kingdom, if you ever play that. It's a kind of part where you explore, you harvest, you build, or upgrade. You get attacked, you protect yourself. If you survive, you keep on exploring, and you upgrade some more, and you get attacked again with a heavier wave. And the core design is basically to focus on the interplay between the exploration and the combat. The fun kind of happens in the tension and knowing that you're now exploring, but soon there will be a little alarm that goes beeping, and you need to make a consideration when you should start going up. If you can maybe stay a little bit longer, you risk getting defeated, but maybe you win getting some more resources that you can upgrade, for instance, your weapons or something like that. It's also made in Godot, which has been a very fun experience, and I put that in because recently there's been some talk about Unity versus Godot, and my experiences is Godot is pretty fun. Maybe it doesn't have all the bells and whistles of Unity, but it's quite possible to make a game there, and we frequently make game jams for Ludum Dare. Anyways, going back to Dawnkeeper. So looking at the audio frame there, and kind of considering as well that it's a game that is a bit light it's not a heavy kind of narrative game. We can say that the audio frame is a bit less serious than, for instance, like Among the Sleep. It could be closer to Hidden Folks. It has a function. And one thing that I kind of took from the other sci-fi games I worked on is that we can add a lot of context because of the lack of details in the visual. So the two other were like flat, cel-shaded, low on detail. This is low on detail, but it's more, I guess, pixelated, which means that there is a lot of kind of things to guess or fill out in your mind, and the audio can really help with that. At the same time, there's these two stages, and the audio should really help the player kind of work with both and feel what we want them to feel, and also kind of lull them into transitioning from one stage to the other. And of course, like figuring out what is the main idea about exploration and digging, what's the main idea about combat, and how should we make that feel good. So exploration. The most basic and the most important thing about Dawnkeeper is your digging, your harvesting. You find a secret, you bring it back to base, and you upgrade and you go back. And we wanted it to kind of be like a very nice thing to do. We wanted it to be kind of chirpy, and we want to be kind of fun. Let me just see where I should talk about. Yes, and we can go over here to kind of talk about that a little bit, because some of the first things I did for the game was trying to figure out how the various sounds of the game would feel. So we did a little exploration where I just did a lot of sound design. And a part of that kind of shaped a large part of the core was going to my grandfather's farm and recording kind of creaky doors and hinges and these kind of things. And that in a way became a lot of the nice thing about digging, and you kind of find the little gate that opens, and it sounds a little bit wooden and a little bit like a hinge from a Jøtul oven or something like that. So I see if I have some ideas of that. So we basically try to make so that the sounds that happen in the game as you're exploring are kind of curious, and we wanted it to feel analog, and we also wanted to feel like you just crashed on this probe or asteroid or something like that, and at least I imagine it would be a little bit